sin and God will still bless me. God says, don't presume on the grace of God. There was a man many years ago in America who wrote to the editor of a Christian newspaper. He said, Mr. Editor, please explain this one to me. Ask your readers to explain this. I planted on the Sabbath. I worked on the Sabbath. I watered on the Sabbath. I harvested on the Sabbath. And I got the best crop of potatoes in May. Explain that. And a Christian wrote back and said, Dear Mr. Editor, please tell your potato man that God doesn't settle all his accounts in May. For the person, my friend, who is working on the Sabbath and breaking the Sabbath and presuming upon the mercy of God, remember this, God doesn't settle all his accounts in January or February or in March or in 1996, but God does settle his accounts. The Bible says that there is a righteous God, and the Bible says that there is coming a judgment day. Don't ever presume upon the mercy of God, because although God is long-suffering and merciful and full of patience, God is still a God of justice. Never forget it. Remember the man who went to Hyde Park in London, the atheist, and held up his watch and said, I will demonstrate that there is no God. He said, if there is a God, I defy him to strike me dead in 60 seconds. Held up his watch and counted off the seconds, and when the 60 seconds had elapsed, he turned with a smile to the audience and said, I've just proved there is no God. And an old man down the front stood up and said, the poor fool, he thinks he can exhaust the patience of God in 60 seconds. He's got a lot to learn, hasn't he? You will not exhaust the patience of God in 60 seconds or 60 minutes or 60 days. But my friend, there is a line that is crossed by rejecting the Lord, where the cry of the Spirit is lost. As you travel along with the pleasure-mad throng, have you counted the cost? The Bible says that God is a God of grace and a God of mercy and a God of long-suffering and a God of patience. But the Bible says that God is also the God of justice and the God of the judgment. Would you please read on in Romans chapter 2?